Alrighty, everyone, we're going to get started. So hello, my name is Lindsay Humphreys, and I'm the Program Director for Junior Achievement of New Mexico. Thank you to everyone who is attending today. This is our virtual career speaker series, and this program is open to junior achievement students across New Mexico, and we highlight business professionals, entrepreneurs, and innovative thinkers from a variety of industries. Each featured speaker is going to share details about their education, their job, and their career journey. Before we get started with today's presentation, just a few virtual meeting etiquette reminders. This meeting, as I said, is recorded, and it will be posted onto our YouTube channel after the event, so feel free to send that YouTube link to anyone in your network who may have missed the presentation today. At this time, if you could please type your first and last name into the chat box at the top right-hand corner. And if you're an educator or a parent on the call and you have students with you, please just let us know how many students are on the call with you as well. And during the speaker's presentation, please make sure all of your mics are muted. And if you have questions during the presentation, you can either write them down into the chat box or you can use the raise your hand feature at the bottom and we will address that question and you can unmute and ask the question live. So today we are going to be continuing our Women Empowerment Month sponsored by the Jennifer Reardon Foundation. And we are so excited to welcome Jennifer Hise Trujillo, Vice President of CEMCO Inc. Jennifer, I'm going to share my screen and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, good afternoon as we're waiting for the first slide. Definitely a pleasure to speak with all of you today and thank you for your time. Pretty exciting to be nominated for this and to talk about the strength of women in the industries. So again, good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Hise Trujillo of CEMCO. That picture there shows a bit of our production shop. I am the third generation of our family-owned manufacturing business that is located in Belen, New Mexico. So our slogan for the company is progress and integrity, because we want to look at how do we keep improving and how do we keep things accurate and truthful. So, what I want to talk about, though, is mining and how I became interested in that. So, in our next slide, you can see that mining is involved for what we all need. We use over 3.1 million pounds of minerals, metals, and fuels in our lifetime. And where do we get these items? And is provided by Earth. But the Earth, we've got to go and recover them. So there's equipment and processes involved. And in our next slide, you can see how it transpires. And so learning a lot of that was pretty interesting. And I have grown up in the industry because of our family business and being involved with the equipment. But it's where you start with just finding information. And so all of the different aspects within those industries and who all's involved. You have geologists and engineers and operators, truck drivers, equipment operators, and then people placing the material. Anything and everything that we need in life is either mined or grown. And so this is something just kind of stuck with me from my early age onward. And so if you think about it, did you realize anything, your phones, the homes you live in, electricity, some of, getting your soda pop, and that it's all coming via things that have been mined and manufactured. So on the next slide, showing about our family business, our equipment is a vertical shaft impact crusher, or VSI, and we take material and size it down so that it can be utilized in different processes. So I don't know if anybody can spot our crusher, because our custom colors are turquoise and red. And so you can see that in the picture there. I actually worked at this operation out in Texas. And so it's pretty neat seeing our equipment utilized. So both also seeing it manufactured, plus seeing it built and used by the end customer is something that I've dealt with. So in our next slide is some of me in my early stages. So again, kind of growing up and going, hey, let's look at these rocks and the outdoors and the adventure. Taking that family support and the family activities, went and saying, where is everything utilized? Where do we find the material that goes through our equipment? And it was just fun on the adventures, and talking about knowing as a young girl, both of my parents being super supportive, saying, you know what, there's no limit to what you want to pursue, and would actually even throw ideas out there and saying, you know what, as a girl, you can be in manufacturing, definitely can be in mining. And I liked the toys, if you will. So on our in the next slide, we have what I grew up with in our business, and seeing the playground, if you will, and learning about the different scales and sizes and what tools involved. So on the top picture, there is a loader that we're helping to repair. So you have the welding skills and mechanic skills, talking about a machinist. So right off the bat, and learning about different maths and how different units. You have metric units and you have American units. So things are interchangeable, and you have items that are can be transferred over to different places. And it was just fun to get that experience and getting to know about the different communication skills and how you worked with the team, and seeing how folks, it truly is a teamwork effort when you're communicating. So, and looking at those items and seeing the desire and the hands-on that I enjoyed, I started thinking about classes and things that I liked. And the other part, though, working with my family, they took us on adventures, and we were able to travel and look at other places outside of New Mexico, because it's pretty amazing what the United States has available for these opportunities of the mining locations. So it was learning about maps and geology and different areas there, and how just the different parts of the United States change, in the sense of you got the river gravel and the hard abrasive granite here in New Mexico versus softer limestones, and that as you work further east, and just on different types of material that our crushers would crush, and where those different locations come from. We truly can crush anything from A to Z. So again, everything that we as people utilize has either been grown or mined. So you got to have people that know how to process those. And the next slide, I can kind of talk about, as I'm getting into high school, truly getting into my focus. And I definitely worked on specific classes to help in the sense of for my math and sciences. Worked on my academic skills and grades to make sure for scholarships. But another item that helped a lot was being in group activities, and that so I worked with our National Honor Society, and also our the high school council, student council, and working on things within for the students, and saying, putting things into place, or at the student store, being able to communicate and handle orders, and how do you get things out timely. So the teamwork and communication is tricky and hard. But there's also on band, doing some of the fun and being able to see other schools. There was science fairs and doing different science projects, which then gave me the opportunity to go to different colleges and see the campuses and look at what was available both in the state or even out of state, and getting that opportunity to go and see curriculums and seeing what courses would get me there. Now on the fun work in summers, I got to run different types of equipment. and that at our family business. So the one there is a picture of myself running the forklift. And there's some of that you're definitely trying to pay attention to your surroundings and learn how to communicate when you can't verbally talk. So you're understanding hand skills, and what are people telling you to do and what's needed and where are you aware. So safety was huge also, and wanting to make sure you can get out of a situation if needed, but most importantly, to be keeping yourself and your teammates safe, and you're having a good quality product getting handled well. So those were important. The one other item, though, in growing up around the machinery and that, I will tell you, it's definitely important to protect your hearing, because it's necessary to be able to hear those communications and be able to determine what's going on, because you don't want to miss out on that. It would be bad. But it was just fun on the team building and learning on that. So for summers and working on items. So in getting through those situations and coming up again, building on scholarships, I lucked out, and actually Caterpillar gave me a scholarship, and I earned one through New Mexico Tech. So where I chose to go to school to work on my college degree, which is with mining engineering. So in the next slide is showing some of the scale of some of the items as we're going along and getting to grow. Because while I had seen some scales, I did not understand how big some mining equipment is. So anybody notice the school bus there? Kind of a little bit off in the distance, and it does not even reach, or it's just about to reach the midway on the tire hub. And so yes, thank you, Lindsay, I'm moving the cursor. So that's the school bus that everybody would ride on, and trying to give you the fun of these, as I call them, toys, but it's just the fun of the size and scale of what can be built and what is utilized to get all of this materials back out to people and to use in our everyday lives. So that was fun on some of the opportunities going from New Mexico Tech into site locations and getting to see different opportunities, again, within the industry I chose, which was the mining industry. And on the next slide was the fun of the classes. So bear with me a moment, sorry, try. That for New Mexico Tech and for the scholarships, I studied and worked hard during the semesters and to maintain my grades, and actually took the extensive hours. I was doing at least 18 hours a semester, and most of them were the tough classes, physics, calculus, chemistry, some of the mining classes, blasting, geology, mineralogy. But while I'm making sure to keep up, if we can go back one thank you, Miss Lindsay, that to keep up with those, and then the labs, but you also want to take some time and to do some fun items, and it's some of that interaction with students and your classmates and getting to learn. And so when you're looking at the colleges, there's other items that can be for your class schedule as well. And so a couple of those that I liked and had fun with was actually a country western dance class, and that try to get coordinated and that's not always so good, but I was much better with the other class that I took my senior year. And my mom liked to kind of tease me going for my final semester. I took billiards, so I was learning how to shoot pool, and that was for the fun. But again, to me, billiards still counted because I was adding the physics and my geometry to make sure we could get the proper spin and get those angles in, so it was fun. But on some of the items that I did during the summers, I would do internships at times. One of them in particular, I worked out in Arizona, at a copper mine. And so in that upper picture there, that is a dragline shovel that was used. And so it basically takes 2 shovels to fill up that haul truck. That haul truck, try to give you scale, like we were looking at the bus. Haul trucks range anywhere from 240 tons to almost 320 tons. Okay, what does that mean? So it's anywhere from 9 to 12 semis is what fills up one truck, and that to try and go for the scale. And so it's just pretty amazing what you can accomplish, and just looking at what gets processed, and to think, you know, to be able to drive that big haul truck, and you're almost 4 stories high up there to get into the vehicle and just be traveling down roads. So there was just a lot of that fun. But part of it also got a little frustrating on this particular case when I worked in Arizona, that if you didn't get to doing what I wanted to, and so I had to talk to the plant manager and say, hey, I'm not really getting utilized here, so take me to another level rather than just the grunt work. And so that was fun. So I graduated from New Mexico Tech and became, actually in the next picture, the first woman plant manager for a company out in Oklahoma. And when Lindsay can show us our next picture, there was situations where things didn't go as planned, all right? So what's wrong with this picture is that the excavator here got buried, and we had to dig it out. So when you have moments where you're thinking you're going the wrong direction, it's okay to stop, ask for help so that you don't keep burying yourself. It's not a good situation, because to get this out took a lot of effort, took 3 big pieces of equipment to pull that out, and then the cost of repair was pretty crazy. So learning from that and learning how to work with the teams. And I was the first woman plant manager at this point in time. I was a youngster. I was only 25 years old taking on this job. So I think it could have been the guys wanted to test me a little bit to see how I would handle some. And it got entertaining. So, but moving back home, and so in the next one I can show you some of the projects with the team that we've built here at our location in Belen, and working with my family team, and that's what I have here in Belen, having that support structure, working on the communication. And I got to marry my best friend, and there's my husband there on the bottom left, and then my parents, who have been some of my staunchest supporters and telling me, you know what, the sky's the limit. What you set your mind to is what's going to happen. So to give you some final thoughts, and that I think for helping you be successful, the next slide, it helps me, Lindsay, for some items is, guys, don't get attached to your phone. Look around, because life is happening. What you post is permanent. People will find it. You want to make sure, is this something you want anybody and everybody to see, and especially your family? Read, ask those questions, stop and ask for help. Definitely learn something every day, because every opportunity is available. You got to put the time and the effort in. Mistakes are going to happen. Those are definitely the portals of discovery. However, learn from your mistakes, because if you do it the same time again, the second time was a choice. So thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. We're going to move to the Q&A portion of the event, and I will get us started by one of the questions that was asked in the registration. And so the first question is, how much technical computer information do you need for your job?
I would say I use quite a bit in the sense of having computer skills. There are definitely programs specific that I'm utilizing, some of the graphics for the design of plants, being able to read blueprints and that, and talking to my production crew. So I don't have a hard number, Lindsay, to answer that one, so I'm not trying to be generic, but I use quite a bit. I will say on this, learn how to type. It is important. Know how to type. It's critical.
That's great. So at this time, if anybody would like to type into the chat box, go ahead and I can read those out to you, Jennifer. And there's a question here. What made you want to be a construction worker?
I had two choices when I was growing up. Did I want, because I enjoyed being out there. I just love the outdoors and working on hands and problem solving. And while I know, again, growing or mining, I didn't have the patience to grow things. I tend to kill cactuses. So I had to go for building and going for the construction. I love being able to see something produced, and every day you can go out and touch and see something completed. And the really fun part is at the end of the day, truly seeing something that there's a huge amount of people utilize, and it's just really satisfying.
Thank you. Another question from the chat. What is the most complicated part of your job? Or was the most complicated part of your job?
To me, I'm not trying to be facetious. The most complicated is sometimes juggling different personnel, is your team building and your teamwork. To me, that's the most complicated, because if you're not communicating and making sure you're asking the questions, because people send and receive information differently, but if you're not validating that things are received and heard, it's going to just go sideways. And so you need to make sure you're working well with others, and you can do things on your own, but definitely as a teamwork, communicate.
That's great advice. Another question from the chat. Is there someone who wants to unmute and ask a question? I think I may have heard it. Okay. So in the chat, how many employees does CEMCO employ, and do you often have open positions?
We currently have, normally we're at 30 employees. Right now we're at 27. And actually right now we're looking to hire. We are looking for somebody for our assembly testing department. We're looking for our drafting position and potentially a machinist.
Excellent. Another question from the chat. Can you tell us a story about being a woman in a male-dominated field?
Yes, I apologize this. Hold on, let me turn my phone off. I'm so sorry. Yay. Depending on how appropriate we need to be. So there have been moments, let's just go ahead and jump back to the one there with the excavator getting sunk. All right. That actually took 3 different males to get it to that level. I got the phone call being the plant manager at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was one of those that coming up with a solution. So again, it came down to communication and understanding we're going to make the call, and they finally gave in saying they needed help. And I appreciated that. It was a little bit beyond what I wanted to have, and knowing that we could work together and they understand that I got to make the final call. So I think sometimes that can be tough, but in the sense of potentially for a lady in the man's industry, but I think it's how much you step up. I believe it's how much you, as in the woman, stand understanding you are strong enough to make the call, having that comfort and knowing you've got a support structure. Go look for mentorship and visit with those, because if you get frustrated, there are many ladies out there that you can meet and build on relationships with, and have a support structure truly in place, saying it's good that you made this call, and it's okay to stand firm and tell guys that they need help and they need to make a different decision.
There's a great follow-up question for that same story you were sharing. So have you ever felt like giving up and not doing this type of job anymore?
Not totally. Do I get down days? Absolutely. Does it get some days that are frustrating and you, oh yes, you go home and wanting to pull your hair out, and forgive me for saying this, you got to go home and have the adult beverage and say, okay, holy smokes, and blow off the steam. I have found, again, my parents, my mom and dad, huge supporters. Now my husband being a good sounding board. I have some best friends in the industries. One of them is another kick-ass lady who is a third generation also, but she runs a plant in Massachusetts. So you call those people. You find some hobbies. If exercise is your thing, that's great. I like to target shoot. So sometimes it's good there, blow off some steam. But no, to totally give up, no. I think there's those moments, it's got to be everybody's personal choice, that truly knowing all the facts and what the situation is, maybe you do need to make a change. But I would truly say find those strong networks to talk to and give you that support in making the best decision for yourself. But to reiterate, my short answer is never to totally quit. No. Get frustrated? Absolutely.
Excellent. So going back to maybe the beginning of your career, have you ever thought of doing a different career?
No. I have had times that there's a difference. My dad laughs at me. There is a difference in manufacturing equipment versus manufacturing rock. And so there was, at times, it was an easier release, I guess, if you will, for actually working when I worked at the mines versus here at the manufacturing. But no, I love this industry. I love the folks in it. I love how they problem solve and network and can provide these goods to the citizens. So I love the industry.
Excellent. Was there anyone who ever thought you couldn't do it?
Probably. There were a couple of guys that definitely wanted to test me. Absolutely. And so that, I think it depends on each individual's personality. I have a laid back personality, but I am hard headed as all get out. And I just proved them wrong. And what was interesting, though, actually, I had an older gentleman when I was working out in Texas, that he wanted to truly test and see if I was going to understand his expertise as well, because he had a lot to teach me too, even though he didn't have the same education background as me. He had more of the life experience. And so he was a tougher person to get to know. And definitely wanted to put me through my paces. But once I proved up and stepped up and showed him I was serious and I did want to learn from him, and we just needed to communicate and find our right way that both of us were receiving the information, he became one of my staunchest supporters, and it made me the better for it. So just because somebody is tough on you, you don't quit, and you don't just say, oh my gosh, I can't do this, because they may be giving you a wonderful life lesson.
Thank you. A few more coming in from the chat. So have you ever found any fossils in your job?
Actually, yet not me personally. The short answer is yes. We had for CEMCO, we test crush customers' material. So we have them send items to us so we can get the right equipment size. I won't bore you to tears with that. But the material came in, if I remember correctly, it was either Wyoming or Montana. And so we're getting ready and we're sorting it and getting it ready to test crush. And we found dinosaur bones in the material that was sent to us. So that's pretty cool. So I have seen anyways, it looks like a snail shell in some of the rocks and the fossils and material that gets sent to us, but it came from somewhere else beside New Mexico. So, but yes, it's been pretty fun.
Awesome. I want to be thoughtful of everyone's time, so I'll go through the remaining questions in the chat and then we'll wrap up. So where do you get your motivation from?
That was, I love sunrises and saying the new day and what's the tide going to bring. I want to say it's being able to help people. It's my team here at CEMCO and my family. They are truly, those are my motivation, and not always in that order. But that's my motivation, is my family and my team and sunrises. You know what, I thank God every day.
Excellent. Can you repeat what degree you received?
Certainly. I have a mining engineering degree from New Mexico Tech.
And then the last one, what does teamwork mean to you?
Teamwork to me is that people are coming together to solve a problem. You're bringing individual skills to make it work for the whole. And a lot of times you can have many type A personalities, or the folks that are the go-getters, but you come to a conclusion and say, I've got one person, here's the end goal, let's all get together and make it happen.
Excellent. And another question snuck in the chat box, so we'll finish up with that one. So what important life skills have you learned from your job?
I think persistence, patience, and listening, truly.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm going to wrap us up for today. So thank you, students, for everyone who was on the call, and I hope that you enjoyed today's program. But before we log off, we're just going to do a couple of our finalizing announcements. So following the presentation, you'll be emailed a post-program mindset survey. And by completing the survey, you'll be entered into a drawing for a chance to win a Dion's gift card. I see some names that have won the gift card in the past, so make sure that you fill out the survey. And a huge shout out to Dion's, who has graciously partnered with Junior Achievement to provide our lucky survey responders with gift cards. And teachers, if you are facilitating this for your students, just make sure when you receive that you send the link to the students so they can fill out the survey. And I decide winners. We do a drawing on Mondays, and then we pick the winner. So I'll reach out to you if you are one of the winners. Lastly, we're going to be continuing our Women Empowerment Month, sponsored by the Jennifer Reardon Foundation. And next week, February 17th at 1 o'clock, we will be welcoming State Representative Georgine Lewis, the General Counsel for Testuque Pueblo. And so please keep an eye out in your emails for the registration links for that. Thank you so much, Jennifer. You were amazing. And thank you to everyone on the call. And we'll see you all next week.
Thank you all. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Jennifer.